It is essential to eliminate this white-gown terrorism, whether in offices, hospitals, or schools.
Rights groups and opposition parties, however, warn that sweeping raids and political-driven crackdowns may deepen the resentment and risk alienating the public.
I hope a free and fair investigation will be conducted. Family members should not be treated as criminals.
No arrests have yet been made in connection with the Delhi attack, but as India intensifies security operations and with memories of the India-Pakistan conflict still fresh, the blast is testing both domestic stability and fragile regional ties. Rasul Serdar, Al Jazeera.
French President Emmanuel Macron has paid tribute to the victims of the Paris attacks 10 years on. More than 130 people were killed when coordinated shootings and attacks were carried out across the French capital.
Doing another stream
Macron later reached at the Stade de France, where the first bomb was detonated.
Playing down like, let's hope we can get a winning dynamite.
And as Al Jazeera's Natasha Butler reports from the French capital, the impact of the attacks is still being felt today.
More than 130 people were killed in attacks in Paris a decade ago. So how are people in France remembering that November night? And what impact did it have on the country?
Lola was my beautiful daughter. She was 28 years old, and she was a young, dynamic woman with a great future.
And I'm just listening to
Lola
Al Jazeera
was killed inside the Bataclan concert hall. Her father Georges says he misses her every day. He's turned his grief into action, giving talks in schools and jails to try to prevent violence. He even developed a romantic friendship with the father of one of the Bataclan attackers. Their conversations became
I really wanted to contribute to the prevention of terrorism. I didn't want this tragic event to happen again.
It was an unseasonably warm night when 10 heavily armed attackers struck, killing people in the Bataclan, on cafe terraces and outside France's national stadium. ISIL claimed responsibility. Across the country there was shock and grief. 10 years on, the cafe terraces that were targeted are busy, but for many people in the city, things will never be the same. This couple says they'll never forget. Everyone remembers where they were that day. It was on 9/11.
We are a multicultural country, all religions, all politics. Everyone is free to think. So it's a reminder to never give in to extremes.
The attacks also had an impact on French politics. Despite calls for unity in the aftermath, far-right parties later used the assault to bolster their campaigns against immigration, as the French and Belgian gunmen broke North African heritage.
In right-wing and far-right circles, their angle was that this was a civil war, a race war, and they inserted this idea into the national narrative, the idea of a war with immigrants in France and elsewhere.
As France reflects a decade on, it's clear that divisions and grief still run deep. But for people like Georges, remembrance is also a call for unity and a way to defy fear. Natasha Butler, Al Jazeera, Paris.
Still ahead on Al Jazeera, while Ukraine suffers power cuts, 2 senior ministers were forced to resign after becoming embroiled in a corruption scandal in the energy sector.
Crime, immigration, and a faltering economy are the main issues for voters in Chile. With candidates from all the political spectrum, will the country choose to remain on the course of progressive reforms, or will it shift to the extreme right? Follow Chile's elections on Al Jazeera.
In-depth analysis of the day's headlines.
How serious is this for Europe itself, given that France is a major engine in the European economy?
Critical debate.
Is the US under attack from Latin American drugs cartels?
I think that's the silliest of all the accusations.
Informed opinions.
There is not a single Gazan that is advising them. You have Israelis, you have Palestinians from 48, you have diaspora Palestinians, but you don't actually have any Gazans there.
Inside Story on Al Jazeera.
This is an enormous emergency.
I'm on the
Literally
old keyboard.
Earthrise explores how different faiths across the globe are rallying communities.
I'm just going to put in my...
to rebuild our broken relationship with the planet.
Yeah, I'm just going to do that quickly. I'm just going to put in my eBay.
The world's population. Then we've got some real movement. That's the step.
Believing in change on Al Jazeera.
So, if you want to support my show, it's just on eBay or something.
You're watching Al Jazeera. A reminder of our headlines. U.S. federal employees are heading back to work as the government reopens following a 43-day shutdown. President Trump has signed a spending bill that funds the government through January. Hamas says it has handed over the body of another Israeli captive to the Red Cross. The remains were found north of Khan Yunis in the Gaza Strip on Thursday. It is 25th of the 28 bodies to be handed over as part of the ceasefire deal. The internal displacement of people because of climate change is one of the biggest issues at the COP30 meeting in Brazil. The United Nations estimates 260 million people could be forced to leave their homes by 2050. And a key test case has emerged in Panama, where last year, 300 families of the indigenous Guna people were moved from their island home to a new government-funded community. That community is called Isbariela on the mainland. All right, John Holman went to visit them and see how it goes.
This is Gardi Suku, an island off the coast of Panama. Wall-to-wall houses, a victim of ever more frequent flooding and storms as the sea around it rises. Eventually, say experts, it will swallow the island completely. That's why its inhabitants, the indigenous Kuna people, decided to move, taking everything,
my screen because I just got
packing their lives in small boats last year. It was the first government-assisted movement of people in Latin America due to climate change. Now this is home, on the mainland. Baby Alexel is the first member of the Fernandez family to be born here. She's happy enough, and so is her grandmother Laisa, thinking on how they're missing storm season back on the island.
In the afternoon, cooking dinner was tough because the tide sometimes got into the kitchen, and the wood we used to cook got wet, so we didn't eat sometimes. Floods always come in December.
Yeah, so I restored this keyboard, so I cleaned it all out.
This is their new home. It's called Isbayala. Identical houses built into the Panamanian jungle, still just a short boat ride from the island itself. The government put $12 million into the project. The Kunas provided the land. It's not perfect. They have to burn their rubbish. There's no collection or health centre. But it does provide a test case of how governments can successfully relocate climate refugees. Soon there could be no shortage in the nearby islands. Experts say that most of the islands in the Guna-Yala archipelago could be underwater by the end of the century. The sea level is rising so fast, and people live on about 50 of them. So it's not hard to work out that a lot of people are going to have to be moved. It's a predicament that many other countries may soon face too, says Ugochi Daniel, who's at the COP30 summit to talk about it.
Now, if we look at what the projections say, by 2050, we will have 216 million people displaced in their countries. So it's huge. It's really, really huge.
One of the successes of the Panamanian government's approach is some effort to take the Kuna people into account, says Daniels. It's a model for others to follow.
It's not just about building houses. How are you rebuilding community life? How are you preserving culture?
The government built a school.
I'm going to put
the Congressional House, the heart of any Kuna community, where chiefs called sailors sit on ceremonial hammocks. This might not work for other communities in Panama or elsewhere. Crucially, the Kunas at least have the land already bought to move to. But Leisa at least knows her family has a future. She's already sewing the traditional molla for her granddaughter Alisa. The place is new, but the traditions, they hope, will remain. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Isbayala,
Italian prosecutors have opened an investigation into claims that Italians traveled to Bosnia and Herzegovina in the 1990s to take part in so-called sniper safaris. They are alleged to have paid large sums of money to shoot at civilians in the besieged city of Sarajevo. They were shooting from Bosnian Serb-held positions in the surrounding hills. That's the allegation. The complaint was filed by journalist Ezio Gavazzeni, who uncovered new testimonies describing how civilians were targeted. Gavazzeni says that he revisited the case after watching a 2022 documentary co-produced by Al Jazeera that exposed claims of foreign involvement. Witnesses describe how the so-called shooters from several countries made their way. They flew from the Italian port city of Trieste into the Serbian capital Belgrade. They were transported by then Yugoslav Army helicopters to Pali, the wartime headquarters of the Serbian forces, and then driven up into the hills overlooking Sarajevo. Victims were reportedly chosen at random, with different rates being charged, depending on whether the target was a man, a woman, or even a child. Arduano Cuvina has
These are some of the hillside positions from which, according to protected witnesses, wealthy foreigners allegedly fired at residents of besieged Sarajevo during the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. In the 90s, these were Bosnian Serb army positions that surrounded the city in what became the longest siege in modern history. If proven, the allegations suggest a systematic and organized arrival of foreigners traveling to Belgrade to Serb-controlled positions where they allegedly paid to take part in what witnesses described as a hunt for humans. The story was first revealed by Slovenian filmmaker Miran Zupanic in a documentary featuring eyewitnesses' accounts. Some testimonies even describe a so-called price list, the targets chosen by age, and house price were allegedly paid to shoot at children. A former Bosnian army intelligence officer told Al Jazeera that wartime intelligence agencies had information about foreigners reaching frontline positions and paying large sums for these acts. Intelligence services across the region did not respond to Al Jazeera's earlier request for comment, while Bosnian Ministry of Defense said access to relevant reports is limited to justice authorities only. The prosecutor's office of Bosnia and Herzegovina is now investigating following a request from former Sarajevo mayor. Hague tribunal testimonies also mentioned the Sarajevo safari, and now opening their own case. Many here in Sarajevo hope that those behind these horrific crimes may finally be identified and brought to justice.
Fierce fighting is raging in eastern Ukraine as Russian forces close in on the town of Pokrovsk. And as the war winds on, Kyiv is also facing another kind of gunfire. This time against corruption at the heart of its government. Acid Baker reports.
What you're looking for on the net. Russian drones track the impact. Ukraine says its forces are holding the line, but Russia claims it's tightening its grip on nearby Volnovgrad. Russia has been trying to capture Ukraine for more than a year.
No offense, but you sound like a salesman.
In Moscow, officials talk of steady progress. But here, it's a slow, grinding war, where every street, every trench bears the cost. Far from the front, a different kind of battle. Ukraine's justice and energy ministers have been embroiled in a multi-million-dollar corruption scandal in the energy sector. A scandal that's enraged the public already living with blackouts and freezing homes.
I was angry after the showing. Our energy system isn't protected. Now we find out there's corruption. It's shameful. Some suffer and others line their pockets. This is corruption and it must be eradicated.
President Vladimir Zelensky moved fast, calling for resignations of multiple justice and energy ministers, and backing investigators leading the case. There's a fear this scandal could engulf the entire government.
First of all, there should be maximum transparency in the energy sector, in all processes, absolutely. I support every investigation by law enforcement bodies, by anti-corruption bodies. We support it, it is absolutely clear, and the same for every position.
The suspended justice minister says he'll fight the allegations in court. For many Ukrainians, impatience is spreading within. They're tired of war and tired of corruption. In Leningrad, homes are in ruins. Smoke hangs over shattered streets. This is what the war looks like, as Kyiv tries to harrow the front and clean up the rot within. As winter closes in, Ukraine faces two battles. One against Russia's guns, the other against corruption at home. Both are testing the strength of our nation and fighting to survive. Survey to zero.
So that yay for now. There's more information on our website, aljazeera.com. Next is weather. And then Inside Story looks at the impact of severe drought in Iran's capital. Still at Al Jazeera.
So active weather rolling in with the bad. We've got some storms and around the Red Sea. Two are colliding together and we're getting a pretty well-defined showers and storms from around the Red Sea break through to the Gulf. And so that's on Friday. On Saturday, it's still there. It's just moving further east, so we could catch a few drops in Kuwait and some of the other drop. That's for Turkmenistan's capital Ashgabat, you're up to 26 degrees on Friday. That's almost 10 above where you should be at this time of year, and it's going to remain warm over the next few days. So all that active weather, topsy-turvy weather we're talking about in the Middle East, here's where it starts. In the eastern Mediterranean, moves into the Levant, and then it heads into the Middle East. It's a soggy forecast for western Morocco on Friday. Rabat looking at some wet weather there, and we see showers and storms scattered across central and eastern Africa as we here. Temperatures
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
Mozambique's capital, Maputo, you get the wind move in, it crushes your temperature, but really things are up and down for the next few days, up to 30 degrees.
The ideal atmosphere, whatever the altitude. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Durian, a pungent prickly fruit from Southeast Asia, is making waves abroad. China buys virtually all of the world's exported supply, but as profits grow, tensions have ignited, leading to land disputes and environmental concerns. On Al Jazeera.
Iran's capital is facing its worst drought in recorded history. The president warns the only option may be to evacuate Tehran. Some commentators call that idea a joke. But water cuts have begun and no rain is expected. How did things get this bad and how many of the world's cities face a similar fate? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Bill Nilsson. Iran is described as facing water bankruptcy. What started as a slow-burning problem has now turned into a full-blown crisis. Tehran, home to more than 10 million people, could fail to meet demand for water within weeks. No city has reached that point in recent human history, but some have come close. South Africa's Cape Town narrowly avoided hitting what's known as water day zero back in 2018. Since then, the world's climate has got warmer and drought conditions have got worse. Water shortages are food security, fueling conflict, and already forcing millions of people to leave their homes. So will Tehran need to be evacuated? Is that even possible? And what can be done to address the water crisis there and elsewhere? We'll put those questions to our guests in a minute. First, this report by Imogen King.
Tehran may soon be almost uninhabitable because it's on the brink of running out of water. President Masoud Pezeshkian says rationing will begin if rain doesn't fall soon.
We've run short of water. If it doesn't rain by the end of November, we must start rationing. But even if we do ration and it still doesn't rain, things must pick up.
That's 10 million people. This cannot be explained by many for much of Iran's water shortage, but climate change has made the problem worse. These dams and rivers are usually supplied by rain as well, after a summer of record-breaking temperatures. However, Iran is not alone in facing water shortages that can force people to migrate, disrupt trade and food production, and lead to conflict. The UN predicts 700 million people may be forced to move by 2030 because of water shortages, and millions are already caught in conflicts over water. Mexico and the US have a decades-old agreement which entails Mexico providing water to the US, but it's failing to deliver. Mexico City says it's because it simply doesn't have enough, but others dispute that. Ethiopia constructed a dam to secure its supply in the Nile Basin that provides water to Sudan and Egypt.
To our brothers downstream in Sudan and Egypt who are worried, Ethiopia built the Renaissance Dam to prosper and to enlighten the region, never to hurt its brothers.
But despite assurances and cooperation agreements, Egypt and Sudan are worried about their primary water source. When floods hit Pakistan this year, it was partly because India released water from its dam on the Indus River. There is a long-standing treaty to share the water. Both countries claim it leaves them vulnerable. And dozens of other conflicts have water at their heart. The expansion of digital technology is worsening the problem, with energy-hungry data centres needing massive cooling systems that consume a lot of water. In Phoenix, Arizona, such centres are blamed for causing drought. As climate change worsens drought and flooding, more voices are calling on governments and corporations to address not only the problem, but the cause. Imogen Kimber, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Okay, let's bring in our guests, and we're spanning the globe today. First, from Perth in Australia is Peter Newman, a Professor of Sustainability at Curtin University. From Washington, D.C., Marcus King is Director of the Master's Programme for Environment and International Affairs at Georgetown University. And from London, Alam Ahmed is the President of the World Association of Sustainable Development. A warm welcome to you all. Alam, I'll start with you if I may. We want to focus at first a bit on Tehran. Can Tehran be saved, and how has it got so bad?
Thank you very much. Of course, Tehran can be saved, but it's a massive national...
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
This is not just one reason linked to this crisis, but I think there's a lot of reasons. One of them, many people have been warning about this for many years. I think more than 20-25 years. The European Union issued a report long time ago, 2000, saying water will be a sector for conflict between countries. I mentioned the Middle East. Australia mentioned that in 2027 a warning their citizens to reduce the amount of water we share. So it's a long history of warning these countries. But in the Middle East, unfortunately, some they took it seriously. Now they are making Iran in one of the countries, unfortunately, did not take it that seriously. So secondly, the efficiency of using the state in Tehran and in Iran and many other Middle Eastern countries is one of the problems. The awareness of the citizen of how to be more efficient and treasure this water is not being the case. Just take the example I mentioned in the Middle East many times. See the amount of water being used when this water is being a lot of water is being used there, efficiency of water, a lot of bottled water. Number 3, government policies. Iran is one of the countries, Sudan, one of the closest countries with water policy. Your government is not invested in serious measure to make the water available. And number 4, the market which is a major problem because it's a basic model, supply and demand. The supply is shorter than the demand, and the product we're talking about here is a life-saving product which is water.
Peter, what factors do you see are leading to this crisis in Tehran?
Look, I see it as climate change mostly because that's what we live through in the city I come from, in Perth. We were told there was a climate change drought induced by climate change. And in the year 2001, I was actually working in the Premier's office when it rained at all and the dams ran out. So we got water bankruptcy and we had to act, and we did very quickly, and were able to get around it by getting wind-powered desalination. Fortunately, we're right next to the Indian Ocean, and we were able to get it effectively working. Now only 8% of our water comes from the sky. It is extraordinary that the situation has changed a lot. And this is a city with 2.5 million, so it's not a small city.
Marcus, our other guest there, touched on the problems and some of the solutions. But first of all, do you think a city of 10 million might actually have to be abandoned at some stage?
Well, perhaps it would have to be abandoned at some stage. But as you noted earlier in the broadcast, there are many other cities who have come close to that, to the day zero, as you mentioned. So Mexico City, for example, is one closer to the United States. We almost reached day zero in Cape Town. But what I think we found is at the last moment, there's been some ingenuity that's been deployed. Maybe water governance has become a little better, reallocation of resources, bringing water tankers in. You know, I'm confident that in the end, even though climate change has been a real forcer that's brought many countries and many cities to crisis, I'm confident that this can be averted with some good water management policies, and there wouldn't have to be an actual abandonment of such a large city.
Okay, so Alan, Marcus suggests there, in the last minute, some solutions are found, but they do seem to be at the last minute, don't they? I mean, how can cities prepare to prevent such scenarios developing on their own turf?
I think for the case of general speaking of cities, I think the first thing cities have urgently to do some what we call it water audit, to evaluate the amount of water currently in the system in the country and the amount of water is being demanded. And they have to find the gap and to evaluate that gap, and out of that gap that there is all these Arab countries or Middle East, and they have experts in water. They have to find out out of that gap in the supply and demand of water, how much of it can be saved or retained back in the system. Because one of the big problems in these countries is water leakages. And you need to do some new innovation, new technologies, and at least you know how much you are missing. And secondly, how urgently I will always recommend for Middle East and Arab countries to quickly use education and try to educate the whole public, not just the young generation in school, about be as careful as possible with this water. Not threatening them, but telling them we could be ending up having no water. That's why we use an example of the UK, of Australia. Australia is struggling from water shortage. United Kingdom here in our country is struggling. So try to really not alarm the public, but make sure they do come alongside with you. And number three, I think people need to go into contingency plans like Iran now. They have to quickly have, like in the UK, we call it Cobra linking. Cobra is known as an emergency. This is an emergency, in my opinion, and the Iranian government should take it as an emergency. Other countries, they need to start. I know some countries have taken serious measures like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt. I remember Egyptian president threatening Egypt to go into war with Ethiopia if a single drop of water. So some countries are taking this very seriously, others are not. And I think government policy need to address this as an emergency, like we call it in the UK, properly.
All right, Peter, what lessons can a city like Tehran learn from Australia? You touched on Perth. I mean, it's a much smaller city, of course, than Tehran, but are there things that they can do there that you've learned in Australia?
Yes, I mentioned the desalination, which is a big thing, but also the recycling of wastewater, treating wastewater and then recycling it back into groundwater so that that recharge occurs. That's another big thing. and then of course water-sensitive design being built into planning of any new parts of the city, so that there are ways taken of using every bit of water properly, so efficiently. And you can bring the public along with that. There's lots of people who have, I think, developed a lot more trust in government because we went through that crisis time and we all got together and did things. It was we could have evacuated the city. It did get to that point where people were saying Perth should move altogether. But you can, if you work together, bring these solutions in and create a better city because of it.
Marcus, is education one of those key factors? Iran is one of the cheapest places in the world for water. It's very cheap in Riyadh and Cairo. Do people understand how it's a potentially finite resource?
Yeah, I feel like people do have trouble understanding that. And one of the reasons for that is the subsidization of water by governments within water governance. So I think in terms of education, there's a long way to go. It can be really effective when people see in their daily lives that they are not able to meet their basic needs. So people realize that, but it's very important also for governments to educate people and also to, not privatize water, for example, but be able to use it most effectively by educating people how they can be most efficient with their use of water.
So, Marcus, tell us, help us understand what are the key factors that are leading to water stress these days and what that is exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So water stress refers to the lack of volume of water that's available, but it also speaks to the quality of the water itself, also to the timing of the water, which has been essentially affected by climate change more than anything. Climate change has interrupted the timing of monsoons. For example, in Asia, climate change has created drought conditions where they've been unpredictable, especially in places in the Middle East. It was 140 degrees Fahrenheit over the summer in Iran, and these are just times that have been unprecedented. So to some extent, it's been over withdrawal. It's been population increase, but the wild card and the factor that's really been hardest to predict is climate change and its impact. So I feel like maybe we are at an inflection point because climate has never affected water scarcity quite as much as it does today. And then there's other factors, as I mentioned, like overpopulation, over-extracting of aquifers in areas that can't sustain it.
Alan, you touched on it before, as did Peter, but desalination in this part of the world, at least many countries are almost totally reliant on elsewhere as well. How realistic a solution is desalination?
Desalination is the key components of the water, particularly the Gulf region, Saudi Arabia, and both here and always in Asia. Saudi Arabia, for example, they have accumulated a huge experience on water desalination because they've been doing it for many, many years. So it could be a solution, of course, not fully, but partially, by using and reusing the knowledge they have acquired over this many, many years. They know how to desalinate water better than us here in the UK. Although the technology is British, American, and so on. But because they use it, I think if they can benefit from the knowledge of desalination, try to cooperate, because it's so expensive to desalinate water. Among them, not just these six, but these six are the ones struggling most, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and so on. That's number one. Number two, I think I go back to the point I mentioned earlier also. I can see my colleague from Washington also mentioned education. And I think that's quite critical. If you add more, because you have a shortage of products, you want to educate the public seriously not to overuse it. It's already in short. But two things I would like to add in here, if you allow me. Number one, I can see you asked the question a couple of times about would the people in Tehran be able to leave the city. I don't think so. The Iranian was threatened by Donald Trump to evacuate the city. They didn't. It's but the final point I would like to make here, which is alarming, we will publish this report next month in London. We really regulated all the regulating this and about the performance in the light sustainable development goals, SDG 6, which is critical, clean water and sanitation. And I can tell you now, this is the first time I'm going to confirm this, none of the Middle East countries achieve that goal of the United Nations. This is now unofficial. None of the Middle Eastern countries achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 6, which is
well, thanks for that. I mean, first of all, desalination, Peter. Is there a renewable energy solution to reducing the impact of desalination? It is notoriously expensive and energy hungry.
Yes, we did it through a contract with wind power, so the actual process is dependent only on power. It is carbon neutral, and the pumping is also taken from wind power. So, mind you, our water utility is owned by the government, so they just required that, and they did it. But the actual cost of that desalinated water was only about 10-15% higher. Most people expected it to be very expensive. But Tehran, it's not on the coast, but I don't know, but the Caspian Sea is not that far away. Perhaps they could bring it there in a pipe or something, but it's certainly a difficult situation, and I would hate to see if the evacuation order was brought in. That would be a global phenomenon that we haven't yet seen. It certainly happened in the past, long past, but I would think the world's commitment to work together on this solution should be brought to bear before any of that happens, and I think there's probably enough expertise around and aid that could be brought to bear to enable that water if it continues to not rain, and that is distinctly on the cards. The climate change is very hard to predict now. Once this is set in, water bankruptcy is on the cards, and evacuation is next. So you've got to do something about it now.
Marcus, what are the risks that increased water stress could end up leading to violent conflict in certain parts of the world? We haven't particularly seen it yet, but there is increased water stress.
Yes, exactly. We've been in a paradigm where water stress has been considered a threat multiplier. And what we mean by a threat multiplier is that water stress has exacerbated existing cleavages within societies, be those sectarian cleavages, be that economic cleavages between rich and poor, be that general instability and poor governance within a country. But now what we're seeing is actually a new paradigm where water is becoming a catalyst of conflict itself. And we see this in some areas, especially in the Horn of Africa, in the Sahel, in the Afghan, Iran, Pakistan corridor. So there's really been this switch of water coming along and aggravating existing underlying tensions, and now itself becoming a trigger or a catalyst for new conflicts. And I think we'll see this in about the next 5 years in some of these areas that I mentioned, like the Sahel. But then also what can happen is water stress itself triggers migration. And one of the issues with migration, as you know, is migration to countries that right now have illiberal or protectionist regimes, and they don't want to receive refugees. But as you mentioned earlier, there could be as many as 700,000 refugees related to climate, much of it driven by water scarcity, perhaps.
Alan, what do you see? Do you see a risk of violent conflict if water stress increases? One of the believe reasons for the six-day war between Israel and its Arab neighbours was access to water, the diversion of the River Jordan. Much more recently, the Indus Treaty between India and Pakistan is hanging by a thread. Is there a risk of violent conflict in the near future?
Yes, 100%. And as I said earlier at the start of the program, the European Union will work about the strategy for the future. So 20 at that time was 2000.
Right, I just need to rush the airdrops. I get them, but like, don't get anything else except the lockpick. So that's all. And we're good.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
Need about 100 airdrops, I think, or 200 airdrops. We don't go for about 100.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
Or I could get about 500. Would get about 500, but it'll take a bit of time. Let's see how like 25 minutes, you know. So I could get about 500.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
Why there's so much shit.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down. Goddamn switch broke down.
What the fuck? That was weird. I just went into the ground. Glitched into the ground. It's totally normal. Oh, this is a bit boring. Yeah. Just going back and forth to get airdrops is a bit boring.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down. broke down. Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
We go check what the food's doing for her hunger. I'm back.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
Yeah. The pork, please. Yeah, the pork, please. Go to eat. Turn the mic off. I am back. Sorry for the bit. Oh, that thing was good, that pudding was good. I just had food and pudding. That's good.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
Probably have enough now. I should probably go for about 200 of them. 200 supply units. I got.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
Oh my god, that didn't look. Oh shit, I'm dead. I don't know. Turn that off, sorry about that. Right, I should have about, let me turn So you know the internet connection off on both phones, so I've got SDA. How many drops do I have now? Oh, shit. 100 for that. Alright. Go for some more. Go for some more. Oh, this keyboard's definitely a lot faster than my plastic. That plastic one is the normal plastic one.
Shit, the goddamn switch broke down.
I've basically been using that because I had to fix the other one. Well, I can't use the white one because that one is broken. You know what, I'm just gonna go over here, get some, not airdrops, but some other stuff.
What you looking for, pal?
Take 3 of them out. Put that one away. Probably that'll be weapon because I can't. Oh, that's good.
Who's telling you so?
Where the hell is this file? I think I'm just gonna have to let him die, bro. Can't find him. How much pistol on the ground? Okay. Not bad. SMG ammo. No, SMG. No, I didn't know. Oh, I need SMG on there, definitely. Oh, they seem kind because you just left me alone, so just I'm gonna fight one of the big zombies.
Nice to see a friendly face for a change. We'd be a bloodstain if you hadn't come along. Thanks. Take this. You've earned it. Where are you going? This ain't over. Where are you going? This ain't over. Get off me! This is it for you! Want some more?
Good idea. Get out of here before I fuck you up good. Fucking Come on, don't give up now. You motherfucker! This is it for you.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Told you not to do it, bro. Alright, what's this? I've got a really good shot.
I don't have a fucking choice! One of Brecking's guys! Let's get him! We won't survive the week without suppressants!
Fuck out my way. How many airdrops do I have? I did everything. How do I die? I'll take the gun. Or take the gun. just around the moon. So it's a fortnight now. Whenever I thought that, my mind goes back to what if I didn't quit controller and I carried on controller and then just became a keyboard hybrid? Because I could have done that because I used to play controller. So, but I didn't do that. I just completely switched from controller to keyboard. But then I just changed because I'm still on keyboard and mouse, but I play on normal edit and then simple edit. But I could have just done edit on off or whatever. But instead I'm a simple edit and normal edit hybrid. I do think normal edit is kind of better for like fighting. I think. But simple edit is probably better for editing. I don't know, they're both good, I can't say. Hopefully I'm not on 1,000 thing, because normally when I stream Fortnite I'm on 1,000 thing, I think. I'll be moving out soon. I'll be looking at properties on Saturday, so yeah, so I'll get better internet and new gaming setup and everything. I'm just going to either strip the screen because I need to do something really quick. I just need to change my settings. All that. Done. Oh, Star One's 800 V-Bucks. I only have like 500. So as soon as I have 800 I can buy Vision and Star Wars. I can show my screen now because guns are in a second and getting the gun ready. Buy and sell sometimes on eBay. I need to check if that link on that other clips, the eBay link. Divine, that's a good thing. I need to close because I'm not using it anymore, just music away. Maybe it's in about I'm very laggy. Can't play like this. I'm gonna have to stop the stream, so have a good night. Make sure to support me. Go to my store, it's in the link below in the description. If you can't see it, this is my store. I'll just show you. Hold on. Buy from the store off the store eBay and just find it. I don't know what that is. Right, this is my store. This is what I'm selling. So, yeah. But on this book, this is my library. I'll show you my library. I've got it's like a museum / library. Because it's got the ancient Egyptian book in that room, in this room. This is a welcome to my store. If you buy one, that's up. The postage is £2.94. We don't do collection because I can never get up in the morning because I'm always tired. So you get it posted to you. This is a book. I'll just make it bigger. I'll just make the screen bigger. Yeah, this is the one. I have some other books as well that I might sell, probably on Amazon. We'll probably get more sellers, but I don't know which one's better, Amazon or eBay. But I've never done Amazon, so I'd like to have a go at that. But this is my books. I have more books than this, but then there's some other books there as well. That's the pyramid book. That's the ancient Egyptian pyramid textbook. That's from the ancient Egyptian culture or religion, and it's how they built the pyramids. And that's the book, the first one. The one that's written in Egypt. This talk you have to pay. For, but you don't have to pay for delivery. Delivery's free on the top, but you have to pay for delivery on the book. Because that's how I make money. Alright, thanks for watching. Have a good night. Make sure to buy from my shop. Have a good night. Thanks for watching and goodbye.